Welcome back! Today on Dialed In DIY, we're ripping into a bunch of old laptop batteries. And we're not just trying to find out what's inside, we're actually going for free batteries that we can use in a lot of other projects. So we're going to kick into 6 different battery types, we're going to separate them, we're going to test them, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where I get them and what I'd like to do with them once I have them apart. There are definite risks when it comes to working with lithium-ion cells, so make sure to do some research and know what you're doing before you start cutting these things apart. I have a lot of uses for old, rechargeable cells, including making these battery packs, which I put in a previous video. So let's begin working our way through these 6 different battery types, and we're going to start with a very basic internal kind of a laptop battery, the type that you just have to slide the lever across on the bottom of the PC, and the battery will fall right out. Just a little heads up, I never plan to put these packs back together, so my approach to taking these apart is always kind of a brute force style. I have found the safest place for me to start is always along the edge where the laptop cell connects to the laptop itself. This is away from the ends of the terminals of the batteries, and it allows me to start prying and sticking different tools inside without as much of a risk of shorting something out. If you were to cause the pack to short out, ruining the battery would probably be the least of your concerns at that point, because what you would end up having is a rapid expulsion of the contents, which could result in a fire or potentially an explosion. And you definitely don't want that, so please be very, very careful. There are a lot of different uses out there for these kind of lithium-ion cells. These are specifically 18650 styles, but before you start to try to charge them or use them, wait till the end of the video and check how I like to separate them and to make sure you test them to see what kind of residual voltage they have before you put them in a charger. Moving on to battery number 2. This one looks very much like the first one. In fact, once we have it open, you'll see that it is pretty much set up the same way. So let's get started. I did mention before that there are a lot of potential uses for these kind of batteries, including just having a spare set for anything that you have that uses 18650 cells. However, it is also great for a lot of the kind of projects that I like to make to run power for LED lights and so much more. Laptop cell number 3, much like the first 2, but this one also has an external power meter attached to it. Here's a little fun fact. If you're newer to working with these batteries, you might be wondering why I've been calling them 18650s. It's a rather straightforward name because they are typically about 18 millimeters in diameter and 65 millimeters long. The last number, the O, is actually because it's a round battery. And there you have it. Oh, and by the way, these little charging boards that I'm taking off of these battery packs are very important. They help to prevent overcharging, over-discharging, and they keep you from having a serious problem with your batteries. I actually add a smaller version of this to my battery packs when I make them, so if you wait till the end of the video, I do have a little bit more information about that in case you're interested in converting these to individual battery packs. On this particular larger battery, I'm going to take a different brute force approach to getting this thing apart. Once I have some space to pull, I'm grabbing a pair of pliers and using that to literally peel back the case. It's sticky in some spots, and I really have to use a little bit of extra force. Just make sure not to push into any of the individual cells. Here's an important user tip. As you're taking these apart, touch them from time to time. If you feel them starting to get warm or hot, stop whatever you're doing because something is causing them to short out. Make sure to fix that problem before you continue. So, starting to get tired of these 18650 cells? Let's switch it up for a little bit. Battery pack number 5 looks very different, and there are only 3 cells on the inside. Once I had this ripped open, I loved what I found on the inside. There's gotta be something great I can do with these. I'm just not sure what it is yet. If you have some ideas for me, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. So that seemed like a fun battery, but I think it's time to go on to the biggest one I have. This external battery pack has 12 18650 style cells inside. So let's rip this thing apart. Like so many other projects where I take things apart, the first thing I do if I'm not quite sure what I need to do to get into something is take apart all the extra little things on the outside, like the bumpers, the rubber feet, sometimes the stickers, just to look for an easier way to access the inside. For safety's sake, I want to point out right here that when I'm prying into the end of this, there are 2 layers of plastic, and I'm putting the screwdriver between them, not between the plastic and the cells, because like I've said before, I really don't want to take a chance on shorting out one of these batteries and causing it to erupt. You've probably noticed by now that some of these have a lot of adhesive or an adhesive-like material holding the cells to the case, and some of them don't have that much. Either way, just be very careful as you start to pry them apart. Take your time. It's better to keep them safe and intact than to create a potential problem. Now we have an awesome pile of batteries, but we can't use them yet, so we have to start by getting them carefully separated. If I haven't said it enough already, here's another opportunity. Use caution when you're cutting these apart, especially if both ends are still connected. If you cut the positive end before the negative end has been cut, you may get some sparks. So here's a good thing to keep in mind. Each of these packs that I took apart, I was able to get because they were no longer working right anymore. That typically means one or more of the internal cells doesn't work the way it's supposed to, so we want to check those out really carefully first before we try to charge them back up. Easy enough to do. A basic battery tester or multimeter can get you all the information you need to know, such as which end is positive, which end is negative, and most importantly right now, what's the residual charge inside the battery. I like to take this opportunity to clearly mark each end as positive and negative to make it easier to recognize that in the future, and I look for those batteries that are at 2.5 volts or more at this point before I try to charge them. What's left inside is less than 2 volts. I don't want to trust it to any of the applications that I'm going to use them in, and I definitely don't want to stick them in my chargers. I am very careful about selecting which of the cells I salvage as far as what I'm going to use in another project, so I do like to look at the initial residual voltage left in a battery, and then test them out in a charger and figure out where they come up to. If you don't have a charger for these kind of cells, it's really easy to make your own. In fact, the chip that you need for it is only about $1. I've got videos that show you a little bit about both, and if you're interested, you can find links to those videos in the description below. There are a lot of places that I can find some old laptop battery packs, but one of the easiest is just to let people know that if they ever have them and they need to recycle them, you'd be happy to take them off their hands for them. So you may be asking yourself, what if I want or need to know more information about the cells that I'm pulling out of these? Well, there's a lot you can learn just from the color of the cells and the markings that are on them. I'll add a link in the description that will actually take you to a site that I like to use that will help you to better understand a lot of information about these cells quickly and easily. Thank you for taking the time to stop by Dialed In DIY today and powering through my video. I have a lot of video projects and other videos similar to this one, so I'd love it if you'd subscribe while you're here and then click the notification bell so you'll know when I have new projects out. Also, if you liked the video or at least got a little something out of it, I'd love it if you'd let me know by clicking that thumbs up. Do you have some thoughts on how you'd like to use some 18650 or similar batteries? Let everyone know in the comments below. And always, come on back because there will be plenty more Dialed In DIY to come.